Hola a todos. Bienvenidos a un nuevo capítulo de nuestra serie de lecturas en inglés. Hoy conoceremos la fascinante historia de Hedy Lamarr, una mujer increíblemente talentosa que no solo fue una estrella de cine, sino también la mente brillante detrás de la tecnología que dio origen al Wifi. A lo largo de la lectura, descubrirás más sobre su vida y sus logros. Y al final del video, repasaremos algunos aspectos clave de la gramática, junto con vocabulario y expresiones útiles para ayudarte a mejorar tu comprensión del inglés. Así que prepárate para sumergirte en esta historia y aprender mientras escuchas. Vamos con la lectura y nos vemos al final para el repaso.
Chapter 1. A Star is Born. Once upon a time, in a beautiful city called Vienna, a little girl named Hedwig was born. She had big, curious eyes and a wild imagination. From a very young age, she loved taking things apart. Radios, clocks, even her father's pocket watch. "How does it work?" she would ask. Her father, a kind man, would smile and explain the magic behind machines. One day, while walking with her father in the park, she saw a streetlight turn on by itself. "Papa, is it alive?" she asked, her eyes wide with wonder. Her father laughed. "No, my little star, it is electricity." From that moment, Hedwig wanted to know everything about science. But little Hedwig had another passion, acting. She loved dressing up and pretending to be different people. She would stand in front of a mirror, making dramatic faces and saying lines from plays. "One day, I will be a great actress," she declared. As she grew up, people started noticing her beauty. "She could be in the movies," they said. And they were right. At the age of 16, she got her first role in a film. Soon she became famous in Austria. But fame was not always easy. One day, she was in a cafe, trying to read about science, when a man interrupted her. "Why is a beautiful lady like you reading such boring things?" he asked. Hedwig rolled her eyes. "Because I have a brain," she said and walked away. She was not just a pretty face, she was smart and she knew it. Then something unexpected happened. A rich man, Friedrich Mandel, saw her in a movie and decided he had to marry her. He was powerful and charming, and at first Hedwig was impressed. But soon she realized that he was very controlling. He didn't want her to act in movies anymore. Instead, he took her to big parties where important people talked about weapons and war. At those parties, Hedwig listened carefully. She learned about military technology and secret plans. "Women should not worry about these things," men would say. But Hedwig was always listening, always learning. One night, she decided she had had enough. She wanted freedom. She wanted to invent. She wanted adventure. So, in the middle of a grand party, she put on her maid's clothes and sneaked out of the house. With only a few belongings, she ran away to Paris, and from there, she traveled to America, the land of new beginnings. Little did she know, her adventure was just beginning. Soon, she would become a Hollywood star. And even more importantly, an inventor who would change the world. Chapter 2. Lights, Camera, Hollywood. Hedy arrived in America with hope in her heart. She wanted to act and soon, Hollywood gave her a chance. She met Louis B. Mayer, a powerful movie producer. He looked at her and said, "You are beautiful. You will be a star." He gave her a new name, Hedy Lamarr. Hedy worked hard in Hollywood. She learned English and practiced her acting. Soon she was in big movies. People loved her. They called her the most beautiful woman in the world. But Hedy wanted more. She did not only want to be beautiful, she wanted to be smart. At home, she read books about science. She had many ideas. One day, she met a man named George Antile. He was a musician. They talked about music and technology. "What if we could help the war?" Hedy said. George was surprised. How can we do that? Hedy had an idea. She thought about torpedoes. Enemies block the signals. What if the signal changes all the time, like a song with many notes? George's eyes widened. Hedy, that is a great idea. They worked on the invention together. They called it frequency hopping. It could help torpedoes hit their targets. They made a design and showed it to the U.S. Navy. But the Navy officers laughed. Miss Lamarr, you are a Hollywood actress, not a scientist. Hedy felt sad. No one believed her. But she did not stop. She used her fame to help in another way. She sold war bonds to support the soldiers. She raised millions of dollars. Still, she dreamed that one day, her invention would be used. Chapter 3. More Than a Pretty Face, Hollywood, and a Different Dream. Hedy Lamarr was now one of the biggest movie stars in Hollywood. Her face was everywhere, on posters in magazines and even on the cover of newspapers. People loved her films, and she was admired for her beauty. But Hedy was not just another pretty face. Behind her glamorous image was a sharp mind full of ideas. She didn't want to be only known for her looks. She wanted to invent things that could change the world. On movie sets, while other actors talked about their upcoming projects or the latest gossip in Hollywood, Hedy's mind was often elsewhere. While they discussed the latest fashion or movie roles, Hedy read books about science and technology. She was fascinated by how things worked and how people could create new ideas. The movie industry was her world, but science was her passion. One afternoon, while sitting in her trailer between scenes, Hedy was writing something in her notebook. A director walked by, noticed her, and curiously asked, "Hedy, is that a movie script you're writing?" He assumed she was working on lines for her next film. Hedy smiled and shook her head. "No, it's not a script," she said with a twinkle in her eye. "It's an idea for an invention." The director looked surprised. Hedy explained her idea in more detail, but he didn't seem to take her seriously. "Maybe you should focus more on your acting career," he joked, unaware that Hedy had bigger dreams than just acting. At home, Hedy spent a lot of time experimenting with different ideas. Her house was filled with books, papers, and tools, and there were often strange gadgets lying around. She had a passion for discovering new things and tinkering with objects. One day, while she was working on an invention in her home, her maid walked in and noticed a strange smell in the air. "Miss Lamarr, are you cooking something?" the maid asked, looking worried. Hedy laughed and waved her hand. "No, I'm not cooking," she said. "I'm inventing." The maid looked confused but smiled. Hedy was always doing something unusual. But for Hedy, it was all part of her dream to create something that could make a difference. A partnership and an idea. Hedy had a close friend named George Antile, a composer who was also interested in science and technology. They would often meet to talk about different ideas and inventions. One day, during World War II, George told Hedy about a problem the U.S. Navy was facing. "Enemy ships are blocking our torpedoes," George said, looking concerned. "We need a way to stop them from interfering with our weapons." Hedy thought about it for a moment. "What if the signal we use to guide the torpedoes changes all the time?" she asked. "Like a song that changes notes quickly so the enemy can't block it. The signal could keep changing its frequency, and the enemy wouldn't know how to stop it." George's eyes widened in surprise. "Hedy, that's brilliant. The idea could actually work." Together, they worked on this idea, trying to figure out how they could make it work in real life. Hedy spent hours in her study, drawing pictures, making notes, and experimenting with different ways to make the signal change. George helped with the technical aspects, but it was Hedy's idea that had started it all. After months of hard work, they had a prototype for their invention. It was a device that used a technique called frequency hopping. This meant that the signal used to guide a torpedo would constantly change its frequency, making it impossible for the enemy to block the signal and stop the weapon from reaching its target. It was a clever idea, and Hedy was proud of their work. Rejection and perseverance. They decided to show their invention to the U.S. Navy. Hedy was excited but also nervous. She knew her idea could help win the war, but she wasn't sure if the Navy would take her seriously. She was just a Hollywood actress after all. Would they listen to her? Hedy and George arrived at the Navy office, where a group of officers were waiting to hear their idea. Hedy explained the concept of frequency hopping and how it could help the military. She spoke with confidence, but as she finished her explanation, the officers looked at each other and then back at her. "You're a Hollywood actress," one officer said, his voice doubtful. "What do you know about military technology?" Hedy's heart sank. She had worked so hard on her invention, and now it seemed like it was all for nothing. She had imagined this moment many times, but it didn't go the way she had hoped. The officers continued to look at her, as though she were just another actress who had no business talking about science. Hedy was disappointed, but she didn't give up. She knew that her idea could help, even if the Navy didn't see its potential. "Please," she said, trying to stay calm, "just think about it. I believe this could help protect our soldiers." But despite her words, the officers were not interested in her invention. Feeling discouraged, Hedy decided not to give up. Even though the Navy didn't support her, she used her fame in other ways. Hedy began to help with fundraising for the war effort. She appeared at events to sell war bonds, helping raise millions of dollars to support the soldiers. She worked tirelessly, hoping that someday the world would recognize the importance of her invention. Though Hedy faced rejection, she didn't let it stop her from pursuing her dreams. She believed in her invention and in her ability to make a difference. She may have been known for her beauty and her acting, but Hedy Lamarr was more than just a pretty face. She was a woman with brilliant ideas and a deep passion for science and technology. In the years that followed, Hedy's invention was largely forgotten. The Navy never used her frequency hopping technology, and it was not until decades later that people realized just how important her invention had been. In the 1960s, frequency hopping became the foundation for the wireless communication technology we use today, including mobile phones and Wi-Fi. Hedy Lamarr's invention had changed the world, but it took time for people to understand its true value. Chapter 4. The Invention That Changed the World. Hedy Lamarr was working on her idea every day. Even though she was already a famous movie star, her heart was in science and invention. Every time she had a break from filming her movies, she would sit with a pencil and paper, thinking about new ideas. She wanted to change the world, not only with her beauty, but with her intelligence. Hedy and her friend George Antile continued working together on their invention. After many tests, they managed to create something that could change the war. Their invention was called frequency hopping. The idea was that when a torpedo was launched into the water, the signal that guided it could change constantly, like a song that changes notes. This would make it impossible for the enemy to block the signal. One day, after many weeks of work, Hedy and George decided to show their invention to the U.S. government. They went to the office of the U.S. Navy, excited about what they had created. But when they entered, the officers looked at Hedy and then at George. "What is this?" asked one officer, looking at the drawing of the invention. It's a system that could help guide torpedoes more safely, explained Hedy. The signal changes constantly, so the enemy won't be able to block it. The officer looked at them with disbelief. Miss Lamarr, you are a Hollywood actress, not a scientist. Why are you bringing us this? Hedy felt a knot in her stomach. She had worked so hard on her invention, but now it was being rejected. She tried to stay calm, but inside she felt frustrated. I'm just trying to help, she said with a firm voice. Please consider my idea. Despite their efforts, the Navy was not interested in their invention. Hedy and George felt very sad, but they didn't give up. They knew their idea was good. However, sometimes the world wasn't ready to listen to an actress from Hollywood. Even though the Navy did not support her invention, Hedy didn't give up. She used her fame to help in other ways. She made many public appearances to sell war bonds, which helped raise money for soldiers. Hedy raised millions of dollars to support soldiers fighting in the war. One day, while at a fundraising party, a reporter approached her. Miss Lamarr, you have been doing a lot for the war. What motivates you? Hedy smiled. My invention, the frequency hopping, could help win this war. I want people to know there is more to me than just my beauty on the movie screen. Despite all her hard work and effort, Hedy never received the recognition she deserved for her invention. The frequency hopping was finally patented, but it wasn't used until many years later. In the 1960s, her invention became the basis for communication technology used in mobile phones and Wi-Fi today. Years passed, and Hedy Lamarr continued to be known for her beauty in movies, but people began to forget her other great contribution, her invention that had changed the world. However, over time, people began to remember what Hedy had done. In 1997, many years after World War II, Hedy was finally recognized for her invention. She received a special award for her contribution to technology. People began to see that Hedy Lamarr was not just a famous actress, but an intelligent and innovative woman who had made history. Chapter 5. The Legacy of Hedy Lamarr. Years went by, and Hedy Lamarr became a name that people recognized. She was known for her movies, her beauty, and her glamorous life in Hollywood. But most people did not know about her other big achievement, her invention. The technology she created changed the world. But it wasn't until much later that people truly understood its importance. In the 1990s, the world was changing. New technology was everywhere. Computers, mobile phones, and the internet were part of everyday life. And one day, a group of scientists and engineers looked back at old patents to see if there was any new technology they could use. That's when they found Hedy Lamarr's invention of frequency hopping. They realized that it was the key to the wireless communication technology that powered mobile phones and Wi-Fi. One of the engineers who discovered Hedy's patent was very excited. This is it. This is the technology we need, he said. Hedy Lamarr's invention is the foundation for modern communication. And so, Hedy Lamarr's idea became the base for the wireless technology that is used all around the world today. As people learned more about Hedy's invention, they started to talk about her in a new way. She was no longer just the beautiful actress from Hollywood. She was an inventor who had changed the world. People were amazed that she had created something so important, even though she was not a scientist by training. Her invention helped millions of people and made life easier for people all over the world. In 1997, Hedy Lamarr was finally recognized for her work. She received an award from the Electronic Frontier Foundation, EFF, for her contribution to wireless technology. The EFF praised her for her innovative ideas and for helping to create the technology that powers our modern world. Hedy Lamarr was a true inventor, said the EFF spokesperson. Her ideas were ahead of their time, and we are grateful for her work. Hedy Lamarr was honored in many other ways too. In 2014, she was inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame. This was a huge honor, and it showed that people now understood how important her contributions were. Hedy's story had finally been told, and the world saw her not just as an actress, but as a brilliant inventor who had made a lasting impact. But even though Hedy Lamarr was finally recognized, she had always been humble. She never wanted fame for her inventions. She just wanted to help the world. "I didn't do it for the recognition," she once said. "I did it because I wanted to make a difference." And that's exactly what she did. Throughout her life, Hedy faced many challenges. She was often judged because she was a woman. People didn't take her seriously as a scientist because she was an actress. But Hedy didn't let that stop her. She continued to believe in herself and in her ideas, and eventually, the world recognized her genius. In the years since her death in 2000, Hedy Lamarr's legacy has only grown. She is remembered not only for her beauty and her acting, but also for her groundbreaking work in technology. She is an inspiration to women everywhere, showing that you can be both beautiful and smart, and that you can make a difference in the world no matter where you start. Today, Hedy's story is told in books, documentaries, and films. People all over the world are inspired by her creativity, intelligence, and determination. Her invention is used every day by millions of people, connecting them through wireless communication. Hedy Lamarr's contribution to the world is something that will never be forgotten.
Hola a todos. Ahora vamos a repasar la gramática clave de la historia de Hedy Lamarr. Comencemos. Sustantivos.
Movie.
Película.
Signal.
Señal.
Technology.
Tecnología.
War.
Guerra.
Freedom.
Libertad.
Dream.
Sueño.
Success.
Éxito.
Failure.
Fracaso.
Recognition.
Reconocimiento.
Legacy.
Legado. Muy bien. Ahora repasemos los verbos.
To be born.
Nacer.
To love.
Amar. Gustar.
To want.
Querer.
To become.
Llegar a ser.
To invent.
Inventar.
To change.
Cambiar.
To help.
Ayudar.
To believe.
Creer.
To recognition.
Reconocer.
To dream.
Soñar.
To achieve.
Lograr.
To fail.
Fracasar. Repasemos algunos adverbios.
Soon.
Pronto.
Carefully.
Cuidadosamente.
Everywhere.
En todas partes.
Often.
A menudo.
Never.
Nunca.
Always.
Siempre. Y llegamos a los verbos irregulares. Esos que no siguen reglas y hacen lo que quieren. Pero bueno, toca memorizarlos, sí o sí.
Be. Was were. been. Have, had, had. Take, took, taken. See, saw, seen. Make, made, made. Run, ran, run. Begin, began, begun. Become, became, become.
Por último, exploraremos algunos de los phrasal verbs más comunes del capítulo.
Take apart. She loved taking things apart, radios, clocks.
A ella le encantaba desarmar cosas, radios, relojes. Este phrasal verb refleja la curiosidad de Hedy, desarmaba objetos para entender su funcionamiento. Así nació su pasión por la ciencia.
Turn on. She saw a streetlight turn on by itself.
Vio una farola encenderse por sí sola. Aquí, muestra como un simple evento, una luz que se enciende inspiró su fascinación por la tecnología.
Walk away. She said and walked away.
Dijo, y se alejó. Hedy usa esta acción para rechazar estereotipos, se aleja de quien subestima su inteligencia.
Run away. She ran away to Paris.
Huyó a París. No es solo huir, es buscar libertad. Hedy escapa de un matrimonio opresivo para perseguir sus sueños.
Work on. They worked on the invention together.
Trabajaron en la invención juntos. Hedy y George unen creatividad y ciencia para crear el salto de frecuencia.
Show up. Hedy showed up at Navy offices.
Hedy se presentó en las oficinas de la Marina. Show up significa aparecer, presentarse o llegar a un lugar, especialmente cuando se esperaba que alguien estuviera ahí. También puede significar destacar o evidenciar algo.
Give up. Hedy didn't give up.
Hedy no se rindió. Aunque la rechazaron, persistió. Este phrasal verb nos enseña que nunca debes abandonar tus sueños.
Look at. The officers looked at her.
Los oficiales la miraron. Look at significa mirar o fijarse en algo o alguien. Se usa cuando diriges la vista hacia algo de manera intencional.
Figure out. They figured out how to.
Descubrieron cómo.
Figure out.
Significa entender, resolver o darse cuenta de algo después de pensar en ello.
Put on. She put on her maid's clothes.
Se puso la ropa de su sirvienta.
Put on.
Significa ponerse, ropa, accesorios, maquillaje, etc.
Sneak out. She sneaked out of the house.
Salió a escondidas de la casa. Salir sin ser vista no es solo una travesura, es un acto de rebeldía para ganar libertad.
Keep on. Hedy kept on inventing.
Hedy siguió inventando. Persistir contra todo pronóstico. Aunque nadie la tomaba en serio, Hedy nunca dejó de crear.
Si te ha gustado el vídeo, suscríbete y dadle a la campanita. Nos vemos en el siguiente vídeo.